Against the backdrop of significant losses for Ukraine and growing demoralization in the ranks of the Kiev regime, Zelensky announced his new project in the Verkhovna Rada on November 19th. Now it is called the Resilience Plan. As we remember, there was a peace plan, there was a victory plan. That is, for the Kiev regime, this is a disaster plan. Now there is a resilience plan. It consists of 10 items and several appendices. Its detailed announcement and presentation should take place in December. Few people understand what this plan is about. Not everyone understands that this is another set of painful fantasies with the aim of ensuring the self-preservation of Zelensky, who has lost his legitimacy in power. In fact, seems to me that he himself does not hide this. He stated in Parliament that there will be no elections in Ukraine until the end of the war. Direct quote. The Constitution of Ukraine and the law do not allow elections to be held in wartime, and no one in the world has demanded or is demanding this from Ukraine. This is disastrous for the country. This little Ukrainian Napoleon stated, "We understand perfectly well what he is talking about." The Kiev regime understands its own anti-ratings. They are aware of the likelihood of a military putsch due to failures at the front, due to the growing fatigue of society from the war, due to the citizens of Ukraine realizing what they did to them and what a cliff they threw them off. In response to such challenges and problems, Zelensky is ready to further tighten the screws inside the country, which, obviously, will be done by the so-called Ministry of Unification of Ukraine. Apparently, this is another unhealthy fantasy. Zelensky proposed creating such a structure, announcing the aforementioned plan. The Ministry of Unification of Ukraine. This is probably the department that will unite Ukraine, in which Zelensky finished off all the citizens. It is already clear today that whatever the content of the aforementioned resilience plan, it is clearly aimed at further mobilizing Ukraine's resources for the sake of continuing military operations and inflicting a military defeat on Russia. This is the goal that the West has set for the Kiev regime. As the British publication The Times noted, Zelensky, putting forward a new resilience plan, wants to reduce the degree of despair in Kiev over Trump's re-election as President of the United States, to assure citizens that he can save the country, given the prospect of a possible end to American aid. And now, actually, about which plans actually work. On November 13th, at a meeting of the Association of Ukrainian Cities, the so-called mayor of Mariupol, Tunko, appointed by the Kiev regime, was forced to admit, according to media reports, the fact of the rapid return to Mariupol, this Russian city, of its residents, who had previously left it. Fourth, he tried in every possible way to distort the cause and effect relationship of their departure from Ukraine. He made up all sorts of fables, avoiding calling a spade. The residents of Mariupol, who fled the fighting, turned out to be of no use to their former country, which did not provide them with even basic living conditions. In essence, they understand that they have never been considered people in Ukraine. In fact, this is a common phenomenon in Ukraine. But Boychenko was afraid to say the main reason for the return of Mariupol residents home. This is the restoration of the city. This is its rapid return to peaceful life. These are the plans that work. The plans of our country today. In Russian Mariupol, as in other regions reunited with Russia, the construction of housing, medical, social, educational, sports and cultural and leisure facilities is underway at a rapid pace. Churches are being restored. Memorials and parks are being improved. Transport is working properly. Power supply is being provided. Just think about it. 45,500 square meters of roads in Mariupol have been repaired this year. This is almost 40% more than last year. And against this background, we drew attention to the messages that appeared in Ukrainian social networks about the refusal of the French company Neo-Eco to continue the implementation of the project to restore buildings destroyed during the fighting in the city of Gostomel in the Kiev region. Why? Because local authorities demanded that their foreign partners transfer 20 million euros to their account, allegedly for independent management of the project. Where these funds will actually go, perhaps the French have no idea, although, seems to me, that they are already beginning to understand something if they refuse to implement the proposals of the Kiev regime and local authorities. But we understand perfectly well where this money will go. All this will be stolen in Ukraine in the conditions of off-scale corruption in this country. The answer is obvious. And a few words about Washington's attempts to provide the Kiev regime with the remaining military aid. The Pentagon is hastily trying to transfer the remaining volumes of American military aid to the Kiev regime before the inauguration of the new President of the United States. At the same time, its volumes are somehow magically increasing with each passing day. Literally 2 weeks ago, the White House was talking about $6 billion, but then this amount increased to $7 billion. On November 12, Pentagon Press Secretary Ryder said that now they are talking about $9.3 billion, which $4.3 billion are planned to be allocated within the framework of the current fiscal year. $2.8 billion were returned as a result of recalculation, and $2.2 billion were taken from the remainder of the initiative to assist Ukraine's security. In general, Washington is scraping money from everywhere to prolong the agony of its Ukrainian puppets and ensure the continuation of hostilities not only this year, but also next year. I have another assumption. This is just mutual responsibility. In fact, this is what we talked about earlier. The Biden family has financial interests in Ukraine, obviously of a corrupt nature. I do not rule out that the money that flows to Ukraine from Washington in such streams then settles somewhere in the American accounts of American citizens. And not ordinary citizens, but those who make the decision to send such volumes of aid to Zelensky. All these facts once again confirm the relevance of a special military operation to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine and eliminate the threats emanating from its territory. All its goals, as stated by the Russian leadership, will certainly be achieved.